Good evening, I'm Mike Jarek. It was about 10 months ago that we first brought you Black on Black, a candid discussion about Philadelphia's escalating crime problem. Our decision to have that conversation was the result of some startling statistics shared by Mayor Michael Nutter. At the time, he said those committing a majority of the crimes were African American men, and equally troubling, the number of black men dying as a result. While some of you applauded our efforts, a few wondered why we were even addressing the issue. In fact, some of you still are wondering. The fact is, if we don't, who will? So tonight, we continue our discussion that will hopefully result in some change. For answers, a few familiar faces, as well as some new faces, younger faces. But first things first, a clear issue for one of our participants is our use of the term black on black.
I don't even like that term because they don't call it Asian on Asian crime. They don't call it white on white crime. In fact, people are shocked to find out that the murder rate for white on white is about the same as black on black, 90%.
What term should we use instead of?
Great question. I have an even greater answer. Okay. Neighbor on neighbor.
Why are we killing each other?
To the extent we're talking about young black men, we're talking about people who don't know who they are. When you look at young black men involved in criminality, there's one of two reasons for that. One is that they're genetically predisposed to it. Some people make that argument. They just got something wrong with them.
I look at it from a lack of respect. A lot of individuals haven't learned how to respect each other. And we're talking in terms of youth. The lack of respect is undeniable. I mean, when I grew up, even when we said bad words, we said them within our group. We never said them in front of adults. If you're elderly and you say something to one of these young guys, what happens? They curse you out and will hit you. And it's all over YouTube. And then it's almost like a game.
When did it change?
It's been a process. And I'm glad you bring out that point because that's absolutely true. It's been a degrading of respect because a lot of times if you're thinking about that child who would curse out that older person, it's probably because their parent would curse out the older person for saying something to their child. So they see that, like you saw in that video of this latest attack with the bus driver hitting the woman on the whole thing happens because this woman felt it was okay to curse out this bus driver who's one of her elders.
Do you instantly respect an older person?
I do, and I think...
Where'd you get that?
Well, I learned that from a strong male figure in my life, and that was from my grandfather. I think a lot of young black males in Philadelphia today do not have strong male role models. They'll look around the neighborhoods and they'll get discouraged. And the males who they turn to are the ones who are, on the corner or doing drugs.
The other theory is that yesterday's slavery is a direct result of the so-called black on black criminality. And what I mean by that is people say, well, slavery ended in 1865. How can you blame that? Well, from slavery came sharecropping. From sharecropping came Jim Crow. From Jim Crow came segregation. It really wasn't until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that black people finally got a chance to get involved.
Have not enough years passed to get this solved?
If you look at it like a race, in terms of a relay race, well, you have one group of persons who, from the time they got here, had the jump. You got another group of persons who really didn't get a chance to run that race until 1964. Both are put at the starting line to say run. And people wonder why one team consistently loses. Well, the way you explain those losses is not the finish line, but the starting line.
So if this is a marathon, how far in are we?
People think that we are well into it because Barack Obama is the president of the United States, therefore racism ended. Nothing could be further from the truth.
When we come back, what some young men in our community wish you knew about them. Welcome back to our special Black on Black. Young black men have a whole lot to say about what's going on in our city. And oddly enough, we rarely hear from them. Instead, many of them will tell you we would rather hold on to those old stereotypes that persist about them. You know what they are. You look like you're up to no good. You're not going to listen to me anyway. They're violent young men, even criminal. But the fact is, the majority of these young men do know right from wrong.
With it. Black days, they seem the brightest. And broke people, well, they seem the hypest. See, we gotta chill, we ain't gotta steal, and we ain't gotta kill. My old heads like Copperfield.
A recent graduate of Upper Marion High School
Bruce works at a restaurant part-time while pursuing his dream of becoming a musician.
Like I rap, like I songwrite too, like anything, like I can engineer, like I do a lot, but like I rap and like my message is pretty much like to help people out. I say like Will Smith with the edge. Like I'm the voice for that people who trying to figure it out.
And somehow make it if he has his way, even though he does not have a college degree.
Like I didn't like school either, like I wasn't type, but like music, like I was always focused, like my dad always said, you got a plan, like just work on that. Sean Carter, cause I'm big spending.
And when asked what most people miss when it comes to understanding young black men, Bruce had this to say.
Like we're young, like it's a new time, like we're trying to live, like trying to figure out like you did. Like I don't know if my dream will come true, but I'm chasing it, like I want to do something else. Like I know what I'm here for.
I think we've gotten so disconnected from communities that nobody asks. We don't ask young people what resources do they need. We don't ask young people if we could create more jobs for you. Are you even interested in the jobs that we could create?
I think what you need to get through the life is proper guidance, and with that proper guidance comes goals and, you know, of what you would like to have in the future somewhere along the line. When I was being raised, you know, I had my father in my life, I had my mother in my life, and it was the guidance and the ideas that my dad instilled in me that, you know, made me want to go down a path that would lead to success.
All those other outside influences that are so strong, they never got through to you?
Like I live with my dad and stuff, like he instilled like guidelines, doesn't mean like I wouldn't follow them. Like I took like what I wanted from the conversation and stuff, and I know what I know in this world, but it's not like I'm gonna be like my dad and stuff. It's not like I'm trying to follow what my parents are doing. And out here it's mostly like you with your friends and stuff. Like that's who you follow more. Like that's who I relate to, my everyday people, like who's with me.
You're not
like,
listening to the older folks.
Yeah, like because like they already been through it. They already did it, and it was somebody older than them saying the same thing that you keep saying it to them, and look what you lived your life. Like now it's our turn. Like, and I know you saying like you've been through it, so you're just trying to like make sure we understand it, but we don't understand it because like it's more you have to feel it to like really know what it's like.
Do you think that they didn't do it well?
No, I didn't. No, I never said that. Like I see where my dad is today, and I know I know what he's been through and stuff. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that's not my route. Like that was his life. Like he chose to do all that. Like I'm somebody totally different.
Is there someone, if it's not your father, is there someone out there that you would listen to? And I think that's part of the discussion. Because I may be able to mentor people who want to get into radio, TV, or going down the path I went down, or I'm going down. But there are other people out there who are in the streets, as they say, or who have been involved in some similar situations that may be more capable of communicating with young people who are out there dealing with that now. And there has to be some level of credibility. I mean, is there more credibility from some other people that you would run into?
First, to address somebody, like how he even said like earlier, like I wouldn't want to listen to somebody calling me a knucklehead, none of that. Like I don't want none of that. Like I don't, like that's not part of my stuff. So my friend, he would come to me, he'll let me know if something's going on. If you know how to come to me and talk to me, and like you can actually relate to me, I know what you're saying, then it'll be better. Like, but nobody's coming to nobody like that. Everybody, oh, they don't want to listen. Oh, they're just.
And let me say something. This is my son, and he is going to try it his way. What I'm saying to the adults, period, is we have to be role models.
Michael, you deal with some people that have been in trouble in their life. Would they be influenced by adults like Alan, Bill, and everybody in the room here?
Some would be influenced, most would not. What we need to do is, in the same way that you get a Spanish interpreter to speak to Spanish people, a German interpreter to speak to German people, you find out who your audience is. For clients like mine, young black men involved in criminality, you get formerly convicted people, people who spent time in prison to talk to them. You get the so-called gangster rappers to talk to them, because a politician, a doctor, a minister means nothing to them. In fact, when those people talk to these young folks, it's a complete turnoff. If certain people say 1 and 1 is 2 to a certain audience, it still won't register.
So that's kind of what you were saying, young Bruce.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you got to get somebody like I can relate to.
A lot of times, the type of people that you're talking about that you may actually relate to, and the people that Mike was talking about, we don't want them in the room either. So when we're sitting here trying to have these discussions, those are individuals that even as adults we don't invite into the room. We don't invite ex-offenders who have not completed, and with all due respect to Bruce, and you talked about your experience, Bruce is a suit-polished business owner. I respect that. But people who are perhaps not that polished, who may be able to relate more to young Bruce, we don't invite them into the discussion either. And so it's difficult for us to sit here and have all these solutions and pass judgment on young people and say that they should listen to us, when the reality is we're not willing to listen to them.
When Black on Black returns, missteps and moving forward. So stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. There's an old saying that goes, when the pupil is ready, the teacher will appear. And one of the greatest lessons we can share with any young person is our own experience. And right now, a young man explains how having a positive male figure in his life has made all the difference in the world.
You know, my grandfather taught me a lot. You know, he's someone who I go to for advice. He's someone who I could confide in. You know, my grandfather taught me how to tie a tie, for instance. You know, just little things like that go a long way.
And that's not all. He also told Stephon Johnson that he had to get an education. Currently a junior at Villanova University, the double major's grandfather stepped in when his own father wasn't present.
My grandpa instilled in me that, you know, it's important to stay in school. School was always, you know, if you want to make it, it was you go to school. And that was something that was pushed from very early on, from day one. You want to raise a family, you want to, you know, make money, you have to go to school.
He also says that advice, along with his mother Monica's advice, many sacrifices and encouragement, have resulted in numerous doors opening for him, including one which allowed the 21-year-old to intern at the White House and visit the Vatican.
Well, the new Archbishop of a diocese receives a pallium from the Pope. So I was very fortunate and very blessed to have the opportunity to attend. I also had the opportunity to altar serve at St. Peter's Basilica, which was a surreal experience. Having my grandpa as that strong male, you know, figure, that male presence, really helped to shape my life and to make me who I am today.
I guess our issue as adults is that, I mean, we know the road, and I guess we have to figure out how to convey that to you guys, that we know the path. And typically we're you know, on a lot of times we're right. Yeah, so, but it's frustrating because if we know the map, how do we convey it to you to say, look, you're going this direction. You know, I've seen friends have gone that direction. I've gone through the direction. Like, don't get fooled by the suit. I'm from North New Jersey, so.
You were in trouble.
Yeah, I've got
And
trouble.
you had to make a decision.
I had to make a decision. Yes, it was in New York. Yeah, I was doing some things that shouldn't have been done as a senior in high school, and it was a crazy thing because I was on my way to college. I was on my way to college already, but I was still caught up in the Newark, the Irvington High mentality, and I was doing some things, and it took that one stint with NYPD that made me think like, whoa, this is not the route I want to roll. It's not where I want to go.
I don't want the suit and tie to fool anyone. I'm an entrepreneur. I put the suit and tie on for a reason. I'm an ex-offender. I also have a gunshot wound to my lower abdomen. I do this to show the young adults what type of change they can have. I'm trying to show them some options.
Image is a big thing when it comes to young people. They're afraid to be who they are, and this mentality that they have, they pick up from their peers because that's who they're most comfortable, you know, discussing these things with. It's just so many young people grow up with people who aren't instilling these proper values in them.
Why is it happening? You know, we're talking about the violence and the neighbor-on-neighbor violence. Why do you think it is happening?
I don't know why it's really happening. I don't know why. Guns weren't coming in here before like that, but now they're here and like they just keep coming in. I know, like, we're America. I know it doesn't have to keep coming in like this. I know it could be stopped.
Too many guns on the street.
Yes, too many guns on the street.
Why are we picking up the
That'd
guns?
be easier.
Why do you think we're picking them up? And
Because everybody's scared to fight now. Like you don't really know about fighting. Little kids and stuff, they don't know about fighting. They hear more about shooting.
Interesting take.
What he's saying is so deep right now, actually, because it's a thing that, you know, we've had these conversations on the air and talked about them intensely in the community for years. There was a time when you couldn't get a gun in the black community. Then there was a switch over, I'd say probably like late 70s, Mike, late 70s into the 80s, where there were guns everywhere. And now you can't get a policy passed that does anything to try to prevent these guns.
When we come right back, our panel shares solutions that just might work. Welcome back to our special Black on Black. Right now, possible solutions.
For me, the solution is this. Nobody says, I want to grow up to be a drug dealer. They do it because of the money. So what we do is, in society, we take that $30,000 to $40,000 a year it costs to jail somebody and use at least half of that to provide jobs. So if we talk about proper education and job training, then we eradicate most of the problem. The other thing is, and I think most of the young people here alluded to this, when we as older people speak to them, we should stop telling them anything. What we should start doing is posing the question. Every time I go to juvenile detention facilities, I never tell them, stop committing crimes. I never tell them, listen to their parents. I always tell them the consequences of those things. If you want to go to prison, if you want to live in your mom's basement until you're 40 years old, if you want to work at McDonald's, then go ahead and do all these things you're doing. And once they think about that and like, wow, all of a sudden the light goes on in their head, so you can't give them the answer. You simply have to pose the proper question.
Young Bruce, why anything would stop you from getting in trouble? Why aren't you in trouble? Why wouldn't you get in trouble?
Because of me. Like, because of like my personal choice.
Why do you think that you were so influenced by your grandfather then?
Well, I think he, went and showed me right from wrong, and
By example, or if you do that, I'm gonna...
by example. And as we were saying earlier, about influences and being cool, I think you have to instill in a lot of young black men early on, between ages of, I guess, like 7 and 10, what the right thing is to do. I mean, it's hard, like you were all saying, for a politician to influence a drug dealer. But if you can influence that young man early on in the, elementary years, that'll make a big difference.
I want to hear from the young folks more. I want to ask the question, what if a parent can see his or her child going down the wrong path, a fatal path? What does the parent do?
You have to let them go. As I got older, my parents told me things and I learned right from wrong. And as I'm getting older and experiencing life more and more, I see that what they told me is true and I'm learning on my own. But they gave me the opportunity to go and explore the world on my own and learn these things for myself and not tell me that I have to go that direction or I have to do that. They gave me options and I learned right from wrong. If you're bringing a kid into the world, you need to instill values in them and a mentality in them so they can make the right decisions for themselves and trust them to make the right decisions for themselves. I've learned through growing up that failure will help. Because I learned that failure, it may not be something that people want, but you certainly learn from it. You have to trust young people to make decisions for themselves, and if they fall, let them pick themselves back up.
Well, that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching. And once again, let's try and keep the conversation going. Perhaps you can start by first asking yourself, what can I do to help save this generation? and our city. Good night, everybody.